Today we continue on with our NHL season preview series. Today we start looking at teams in the Metro Division, and we're starting with the New York Rangers. How will the season go? Have their offseason changes allowed them a chance to go deeper into playoffs this year than it did last? We'll discuss the upcoming season and our expectations coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we're previewing the upcoming season for the New York Rangers as we begin looking at teams in the NHL's Metropolitan Division. Now, in case you're new to this series, essentially we're going to do a quick recap of last year, take a look at some key team and individual stats, take a look at the recent playoff history, cap space, where everything sits that way, take a look at how the team has changed. Do they have any prospects that are going to be in the lineup this year? Some bounce back breakthrough candidates. What's the lineup looking like and what questions are they really facing as they try to get into the season and certainly hope to do better than the year before. So before we get into all that, let's start by recapping the 22-23 campaign for the Rangers, which resulted in a third place finish in the Metro behind Carolina and New Jersey, 107 points, a record of 47, 22, and 13. Overall, pretty good, but there were some ups and downs throughout the year. The Rangers were probably coming into the season with a little bit more of an expectation. I think the Devils kind of caught a lot of people by surprise. Everybody kind of expected the Devils to be better than they had been previously, but they took such a huge leap and a huge step forward that it caught, I think, a lot of teams, including the Rangers, by surprise, and it allowed the Rangers to slip in the standings. I think a lot of us probably predicted the Rangers to be first or second, battling with Carolina for the division lead, and the Devils had something to say about that last year, so it kind of became more of a three-team race with the Rangers falling a bit behind those two. They scored 277 goals, which was 12th highest in the league, allowed 219, which was only the fourth best, which is good. Power play was solid, 24.1%, which was number 7 in the league, and the PK was also solid, 81.2% for third best. So, your special teams are both top 10. Your goals against are fourth. Your goals for is 12. Like, there's a lot to like about this team. Certainly, obviously, like I said, a lot of things went well. But unfortunately, the playoffs, they lost early to the Devils. They didn't win any series this year, past year, whereas the year before they won multiple series and went on to a much deeper playoff run. So obviously they took some steps backwards in that regard. They had made the playoffs the last 2 years, 3 of the last 4 prior to that. But unfortunately, this resulted in Gerard Gallant getting the axe from the New York Rangers. Of course, they now have new head coach in Peter Laviolette. It'd be interesting to see how this team responds with a new head coach. Obviously, they made a lot of additions at the deadline last year as well. Chris Drury really went all in on this team. Added Tarasenko and Kane and Mott, and it still resulted in a very early first-round loss. Goes to show you that making the big deadline additions don't always work out, and he spent a lot of assets doing it. Now, individually, they were led by players like Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad were your top 2 scorers, 92 and 91 points respectively. Adam Fox, one of the top defensemen in the league, offensively speaking especially, 72 points. Trocheck had 64, and Chris Kreider 54. Certainly his numbers were down a bit last year after having a 50-goal campaign the prior season. Cap space wise, they're okay, but they're not great. They do need to make at least one move, which can be internally, doesn't have to be a trade. But with a 23-man roster right now, they're $46,583 above the cap. So that also gives them, according to Cap Friendly, 13 forwards and 8 defensemen. So all they got to do is select one player to go down to the minors. It's not that difficult to do. They have some options to do that. Nobody would really either be worried about losing or that could be waivers exempt. So it really would be a simple transaction. Go down to a 22-player roster and boom, they're cap compliant. Now let's take a look at how this roster has changed throughout the course of the offseason. They lost all the players that they picked up at the deadline, so your subtractions include Vladimir Tarasenko, Patrick Kane, and Tyler Mott. Jaro Halak was not re-signed. He's not brought back, so they have a new backup goalie. Niko Mikkola, another deadline acquisition on the blue line, did not return. Libor Hayek's time at the Rangers is up, as is Ryan Carpenter. So that's a fair bit of players going out the door. They did make a lot of new additions as well, including Blake Wheeler. He comes in after being bought up by the Jets on a 1-year cheap contract. They bring in Nick Bodino, who really, for a bottom 6 center, I think he'll be a great fit there. They brought in Tyler Pitlick, Riley Nash, Eric Gustafson, Mac Hollowell, Connor Mackey, and Jonathan Quick. I don't think Quick shows on that graphic, but Quick was added to replace Jaro Halak. So far in the preseason, Quick hasn't looked the greatest. I mean, he only had, I believe, the one outing, but certainly you hope that Jonathan Quick can be a nice addition there and certainly gives Shesterkin enough nights off that he can be well rested for the playoffs. Now, prospect-wise, do they have any prospects that you expect to jump into this lineup and make a regular kind of impact? And to be honest, I'm not sure there is. I think there's a possibility you could see a defenseman like Zach Jones, who has been, a Rangers prospect under contract now for a couple of years, battle with Gustafson for the number 6 spot on the decor. So Jones, I think, will have an opportunity. Some guys to keep an eye on as well will be Brennan Othman and Will Cooley. I'm not sure that either of those players make the roster out of camp, but I can see them both being, especially Cooley more than Othman, but both of them throughout the year, hopefully getting some NHL games in, being good call-up options, and see where they can take their next steps of their development. I mean, obviously we know the Rangers have had a difficult time with the development of Lafreniere and Kakko and Hedl. We're finally starting to see some progress, and they're hoping those guys can take another big step this year. Especially, Kakko and Lafreniere, they were drafted so high, you do expect more, but I'm not convinced they've been put in a position to be able to do more than what they have either. I think a lot of this is, yes, on the player, but a lot of it on the team. So to me, you're trying to get those guys big steps forward. But these guys are the next group coming through that will hopefully be able to take roles sooner than later. But, I think we'll see them in Ranger Blue this year, just not necessarily regularly on the main roster all the time. Who are some bounce back and breakthrough candidates this year that could impact this roster? Well, bounce back, I'm going with Chris Kreider. I don't think Kreider had a terrible year, but his goal totals were certainly down a fair bit after having 50 goals plus the year before. I'd like to see his numbers take another step forward and bounce back closer to what he was 2 years ago. I think that would be a huge help for this team. As far as a breakthrough player, I really think it needs to be Alexis Lafreniere, the former first overall picks, had his entire ELC now. He's on a second contract. It's really time to step up. Based on what we've seen early in training camp and preseason, they might try him in the top 6 and give him more of a chance under the new head coach, Peter Laviolette. So I really think that they need to do that and see if they can make an effort here to help him produce like he was expected to out of being drafted. Now, Kakko and Hedl in the same boat. Hedl showed more progress than most last year. Kakko also had some good development, but they certainly would like all these guys to continue taking another big step forward to be a big part of the team's future. But at the same time, like I said before, this team was lucky to get Lafreniere and Kakko based on draft lottery. They didn't have great odds to win those 2 spots, but they did. But they also boxed those players out by bringing in a lot of other players and kept them down to a third-line role. They're not going to produce a ton of offense at that level. So we'll see where things go on that front this year. Their expected lineup, this is according to dailyfaceoff.com, projecting right now that your top line, well, they have it as Kreider, Zibanejad, and Kakko. I really think Lafreniere is going to be there, but that's how they have it right now. Second line of Trocheck, Panarin, and Blake Wheeler. Third line of Hedl, Lafreniere, and Gaudreau. I really think we're going to see Kakko and Lafreniere get swapped myself. That's my projection. Fourth line, Bonino, VC, and Pitlick. Now, on the back end, you've got Ryan Lindgren, Adam Fox, Andre Miller, Jacob Trouba, Braden Schneider, Gustafson, and then Zach Jones is going to be your number 7 guy who likely have something to say about Gustafson being on that spot there with Schneider. I think we could see Jones take that spot and have Gustafson be the extra guy. Gustafson is more of a offensive guy, really. He might be able. He got a lot of experience, though, obviously. So we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised, depending on who the opponent is and whatnot. Maybe if we see those guys, kind of rotate a bit. And of course, Igor Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick make up your goaltending tandem. Now, what are the top questions facing this franchise moving forward? To me, a big question mark is Jonathan Quick. He's got a great history, Stanley Cups to his name. He's had a phenomenal career. But he's also hasn't been the greatest the last few years. Now, yes, he got another Stanley Cup last year in Vegas, but let's be honest, he didn't really have to do much to get there. Most of that work was done by Logan Thompson and Aiden Hill. He did contribute a little bit, but He wasn't even the go-to guy. So, can Quick give Shesterkin enough nights off with quality starts that you can get enough wins out of your backup goalie? That's the key thing that teams are looking for in more of a 2 and 3 goalie system now in the NHL. Is you need a solid starter, but you also need a solid backup that can give you enough games and enough wins. Or you need a tandem, which is almost 50-50. We know that's not going to be the case here. Quick is not going to play the same number of games as Shesterkin. It's just not. You're looking at probably more of a 75-25 to 80-20 split here. Igor's going to play the bulk of the games, but you need enough good starts out of Quick that you're comfortable putting him in. Obviously, more than just back-to-backs, right? So Quick's play is absolutely huge for the Rangers this year. If he does not have a good season and is a downgrade in a backup spot, and they lose too many games when he's in the net, that's not going to be good. That could impact their positioning for playoffs. It could even impact whether they are even in. They're in a tight, tough division. Carolina and New Jersey were the top 2 teams last year. Guess what? They didn't get any worse. They didn't take any steps backwards. On paper, they still look to be as good or better. So they're going to have their hands full. And then you've got other teams obviously in the mix there. It'll be interesting to see about Washington with a new head coach, new philosophy on how to run the offense. Are they going to be better this year? I don't know. Pittsburgh made a huge move getting Carlson. You can't write them off. The Islanders, even though they're, haven't done much to change the roster, they've been in the mix and, right on the cusp of playoffs or right there at the end of it. So you can't rule them out. Philly and Columbus should be at the bottom of the division, but we'll see about that too. So it's not like they're going to have a cakewalk here. This is going to be a tough spot, and they need those wins from Quick. It's going to be huge. Lafreniere taking a big step. If they can give him and Kakko opportunities in the top 6. I mean, to be honest, Blake Wheeler's there on a short-term deal. He's a veteran guy. Yes, he can still play. However, is Blake Wheeler being there for 1 year worth the potential, big development from getting Lafreniere and Kakko more top 6 minutes? I don't know that it is. I mean, yes, they have him on the second line. He'll probably play there a fair bit, but can you not put Lafreniere and Kakko both in top 6 roles and play Blake Wheeler on your third line? Blake Wheeler should be capable of that. We'll see. I don't know if I understand you got to go with what's working. You got to go with what's going to get you the best results. And it's going to be a little bit of trial and error there. But I think you also have to factor in the future at the same time. You got to balance all that out. So to me, Lafreniere and Kakko getting more of an opportunity to play an offensive role and taking steps forward and taking advantage of that, also going to be huge. We saw Zibanejad deal with an injury early on. You need him to be good like usual. You need Panarin to be normal. You need Kreider to hopefully get closer. I mean, he's getting older. He's not old by any means, but can he do 50 goals again? I don't know, but close to 40 would be good. If he can keep that up, that would be obviously very helpful. But you need some good secondary scoring too. And do we have that? And will they give opportunities depending on how these bottom 6 guys are doing? Will they give opportunities to some of the younger guys like Othman or Cooley to get in there and get some reps if things are going well at the AHL level, which I fully kind of expect it will. At the end of the day, that's where things go. But at the same time, they've added some good veteran depth here this year in the offseason. If you take a look at what left and what went out the door, Tarasenko, Kane were not there for too long. But, you add Wheeler, you add Bonino. There's some good experience that can play that middle bottom 6, and still contribute offensively. So, realistically, I think that this group for the Rangers has potential to be better than last year. But that's if everything goes perfect. You need, like I said, all these steps forward from some of your young guys. To be honest, I think the odds of everybody having those steps are, unfortunately, I think are a little bit slim. And then you factor in like Jonathan Quick being an X factor. I don't know. I mean, this team could be, again, I'm probably looking at projecting them to be in a similar spot as last year. I think they may struggle to pass Carolina and New Jersey and be doing well to be third place again. And then they're going to have to battle one of those teams in the first round of the playoffs, and that's not going to be an easy task. Of course, they can make some other moves throughout the year to be ready for playoffs, and we'll see. But they get their hands full. It looked like a couple years ago, the Rangers were the team surging ahead, And, if New Jersey doesn't take any steps back this year, then it's going to be real hard on the Rangers. And I don't see right now any indication that the Devils will. So we'll have to see about that. But like I said, 2 years ago, it was the Rangers leaping forward, deep playoff run, great regular season. The Devils came up last year and did even better. So we'll see where it goes. But I think the Rangers will have a great regular season. I certainly see them as being a playoff team. I like most of the moves that they've made this year in the offseason. It's just a matter of putting it all together and seeing how things work out. My biggest concern, though, again, is Jonathan Quick. So let me know what you think down in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.